It ended in silence. Not the dramatic kind, but the heavy silence that follows embarrassment. Kobe Bryant walked off the court after the worst game of his career, head down, jersey soaked, eyes empty. The scoreboard told one story. His body told another. He had failed in public, and everyone had seen it. The box score was brutal. Missed shots, forced decisions. A performance analysts would later describe as uncharacteristic. Kobe Bryant did not believe in that word. To him, every outcome had a cause, and this one demanded an answer. In the locker room, no one spoke to him directly. Teammates avoided eye contact. Coaches offered short, careful words. Kobe sat alone, staring at the floor, replaying each possession in order. He wasn't angry. He was calculating. This was not the first bad game of his career, but it felt different. Something fundamental had slipped. Timing, confidence, instinct. For the first time, Kobe Bryant wondered if effort alone was no longer enough. On the flight home, he did not sleep. He watched game footage repeatedly, frame by frame. Every hesitation stood out. Every extra dribble felt louder. He saw it clearly now. He had trusted habits that no longer served him. By the time the plane landed, the decision was already forming. Not emotional, not impulsive, permanent. Whatever he had been doing before this game would not continue. Comfort had crept in unnoticed, and comfort to Kobe Bryant was unacceptable. He arrived home as the sun began to rise. No rest, no recovery. He changed clothes and went straight to the gym, not to shoot, not to sweat, but to think, because this decision would not be about one game. It would be about everything that followed. Inside the empty facility, Kobe Bryant sat alone, replaying the same question over and over. How does a player fail at the highest level? The answer was not talent, it was tolerance. Tolerance for small mistakes that grow when ignored. That night forced clarity. He would no longer train to maintain, he would train to eliminate weakness entirely. Every flaw, no matter how minor, would be attacked relentlessly. There would be no exceptions. This decision would never be announced. No interview would mention it. But from that moment forward, nothing in Kobe Bryant's routine would ever return to what it was before. And the consequences of that choice would define the rest of his career. The next morning, Kobe Bryant rewrote his routine without hesitation. Training sessions would no longer have an end time. They would end only when every weakness identified the night before was addressed. Fatigue was no longer a signal to stop. It was a signal to focus. He began earlier than anyone else and stayed later than he ever had, not to prove a point, but to remove uncertainty. If a shot failed late in the game, it meant the repetition had been insufficient. That logic became absolute. Recovery days disappeared. Instead, they transformed. Light work replaced rest. Film study replaced downtime. Kobe Bryant believed momentum was fragile. Once lost, it demanded immediate reconstruction. Strength training intensified, but not blindly. Every movement was tied to a basketball action. Balance, footwork, explosion. Nothing was cosmetic. Everything served efficiency under pressure. Sleep became fragmented. Nutrition became precise. Social routines quietly faded. Kobe did not announce these changes. He simply removed anything that distracted from improvement. Teammates noticed first. His presence changed the tone of practice. Drills sped up. Mistakes were corrected instantly. There was no patience for repetition without intention. Coaches questioned sustainability. Kobe listened and continued. He had already accepted the cost. Reversal was not an option because the alternative felt worse. This was no longer preparation for success. It was preparation against failure. And that distinction reshaped everything. The worst game of his career had done more than expose flaws. It had removed choice. The path forward narrowed, but it became unmistakably clear. From this point on, Kobe Bryant would not negotiate with his limits. He would redefine them daily, regardless of outcome. Within weeks, the cost of Kobe Bryant's decision became visible. His body showed signs of strain that rest would normally heal. Instead of slowing down, he adjusted mechanics, redistributed effort, and continued. Pain was treated as information, not a warning. Practices grew quieter around him. Teammates sensed the shift. Conversations shortened. Focus intensified. Kobe did not demand attention, but his presence commanded it. Standards rose without discussion. Small inefficiencies became intolerable. Foot placement, shot timing, defensive angles. Nothing escaped review. What once felt obsessive now felt necessary. Precision replaced comfort. Media criticism resurfaced quickly. Analysts questioned durability. Commentators warned of burnout. Kobe Bryant offered no response. He believed explanations diluted commitment. Sleep deprivation accumulated. Recovery windows narrowed. Yet his performance stabilized. Not dramatically, but reliably. Consistency became the first sign that the decision was working. Games slowed down for him mentally. Where panic once crept in, control appeared. The repetition had created familiarity under stress. Doubt had less room to operate. Still, the cost continued to rise. Isolation deepened. Relationships strained. Kobe understood the trade-off clearly. Every gain demanded something in return. There were moments, late at night, when reversal crossed his mind. Not as temptation, but as measurement. He always reached the same conclusion. Going back would undo progress. The worst game of his career had become a reference point. Not a scar, but a checkpoint. A reminder of what complacency produced. By accepting the cost early, Kobe Bryant ensured the decision could not be undone quietly. It would reshape him entirely, or break him in the process. The first real test arrived under bright lights. A nationally televised game, a hostile crowd, and expectations sharpened by memory. Kobe Bryant stepped onto the court carrying more than preparation. He carried proof. This performance would either justify the decision or expose it as excess. Early shots fell short. The familiar tension threatened to return. Instead of forcing rhythm, Kobe slowed his breathing and trusted repetition. Each movement mirrored countless nights alone. The gym had already prepared him for this moment. Defenses pressed harder. Traps closed faster. Kobe adjusted without urgency. He passed when necessary, attacked when space appeared. The game no longer dictated his tempo. He dictated the game's. Commentators noted the composure. Teammates felt it too. The floor spaced differently when certainty replaced doubt. Decisions arrived quicker. Mistakes shortened. The structure held. The second half intensified. Fatigue surfaced where it always did. This time Kobe welcomed it. Fatigue confirmed familiarity. He had rehearsed exhaustion in silence, not in competition. When the final buzzer sounded, the result mattered less than the process. The decision had survived contact. It had survived scrutiny. The path forward narrowed again, but strengthened. After the game, Kobe avoided celebration. He reviewed film that night, noting minor lapses others would ignore. The standard did not soften with success. Public narratives shifted cautiously. Praise returned, conditional and fragile. Kobe did not internalize it. Approval had never been the metric. The worst game of his career receded further into the past, but its lesson remained active. Complacency would not be allowed to rebuild. With the test passed, the decision hardened into routine. What began as response became identity. As the season progressed, the decision began to reshape the locker room. Kobe Bryant's standards became unavoidable. Practices grew sharper. Margins tightened. Some teammates elevated their focus. Others withdrew. Leadership, Kobe believed, was not consensus. It was direction. Tension surfaced in subtle ways. Missed rotations drew silence. Late arrivals drew stares. Kobe did not lecture. He demonstrated. The message was implicit and constant. Preparation was non-negotiable. Coaches managed the balance carefully. They relied on Kobe's intensity while monitoring its effect. Wins softened friction, losses magnified it. Kobe accepted both outcomes without altering his approach. Public debate intensified. Was this leadership or isolation? The question followed every broadcast. Kobe Bryant never addressed it. He believed leadership revealed itself under pressure, not microphones. Late games tested resolve. When momentum shifted, Kobe slowed the chaos. Familiar patterns emerged. Repetition took over. Doubt stayed distant. The decision after his worst game had now created a system others had to respond to. Adaptation became mandatory. Excuses disappeared. Relationships changed, but clarity increased. The path forward remained narrow and demanding. For Kobe, that narrowness was reassuring. It left no room for misinterpretation. Every night reaffirmed the same truth. Reversal would fracture everything built since that decision. Pressure no longer questioned him. It refined him. Time passed, and the decision revealed its permanence. Kobe Bryant no longer remembered his previous routine clearly. The old version felt distant, incompatible with who he had become. Injuries accumulated, but his response stayed measured. Adjustments replaced compromise. Technique evolved. Standards held. Younger players entered the league with speed and confidence. Kobe studied them closely. Competition sharpened his focus rather than threatening it. There were moments of exhaustion where stopping seemed logical. Logic, however, no longer guided him. Identity did. The decision after that worst game had eliminated alternatives. There was no version of success that did not involve this level of commitment. Teammates eventually understood. This was not temporary intensity. It was permanence. Opponents felt it as well. Games against Kobe carried a different weight. He did not chase dominance. He allowed preparation to deliver it. The point of no return passed quietly, without ceremony. From then on, reversal was not a question. It was irrelevant. Years later, Kobe Bryant would be described through numbers, championships, and accolades. Few would mention the worst game. Fewer still would understand its importance. That night did not end his career. It redirected it. Failure became instruction. Discomfort became structure. The decision he made afterward was never reversed because it could not be. It aligned too closely with who he chose to become. Greatness in this context was not an achievement. It was maintenance. Daily, unforgiving, silent. The world saw results. It did not see the cost that produced them. Kobe Bryant never framed that decision as sacrifice. He framed it as necessity. After his worst game, he removed comfort from the equation, and by doing so, he ensured his career would never return to what it once was.